Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions for the worlds of music, TV, film, pop culture, social media, everything really, depending on a guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is a guitarist, plays in a bunch of cool bands, including Horcrux and Bytown Lights. He's from Ottawa. He's a good friend. He's an old friend. We are speaking to Scott Norris. Scott, welcome to Popternative, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Really excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see you, man. It's been a while. I'm glad we're able to do this.
Yeah, dude, it's so good to see you.
I don't think people still realize how much of a grind it is to like play in a band. Is it safe to say people still don't realize it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people see the end product, right? I mean, it's the same thing, probably the same thing with the podcast too, right? People see the end product and they're like, "Oh, this is cool." But they don't see everything that goes on behind the scenes, the hours of, for your podcast prep stuff, and like for music, all the practice and all the rehearsals that go into stuff like that. Songwriting too, as a heavy songwriter, like you spend, months and months and months just putting stuff together and, all for a 3-minute song. So yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the, it's definitely getting better. A lot of people are a lot of that spotlight is kind of coming to those different areas.
Absolutely.
But yeah, definitely it's a grind for sure, man.
I just remember those like kind of like band meetings that we had, because for people that don't know, I was the booking agent for one of your first bands, of Reverie, for a little bit.
Yeah,
and we would meet at Place Orleans. We would meet at the Second Cup at Place Orleans for meetings. It's funny because Jaquan Park from the 13th floor posted the poster for a show we did at Mavericks. That was 8 years ago. Isn't that insane?
Oh, that's crazy, man. What a trip. That was such a good show.
That was a great show. And I think that show was good because that was literally, except for, of course, our mutual friends at Amongst Heroes, that was like an all local show. And there was like so many kids at that show. And I talked to, Mikey about that. And like, Preeminent played in front of like 100 kids, and they were the first band at like 6:30. Like, how like people don't really like show up for the first bands a lot of times.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing is that Ottawa's great for that. Like people come, they show up for everyone, and they just kind of hang out. Like love that about Ottawa. But yeah, that show was so awesome. Like I'm pretty sure that was we either sold out or we were really.
Oh, we sold out. Like we weren't able to sell another ticket. Like we sold out.
That was such a sick show.
No, it was good. For people that know you, you're gonna talk about it a little bit. I mean, you play guitar in a lot of you dabble in a lot of genres. You write in a lot of different genres. I feel like that's one thing that kind of makes you, makes artists that are diverse and able to kind of toy around with different genres very valuable. Do you kind of see it sometimes though as like, in terms of songwriter, like your Horcrux stuff, does it make you well-rounded when you're doing the pop stuff? When you do the pop stuff, does it kind of make you creative to do the metal stuff? Does that ever come into play, do you think, a little bit? Like, do you know what I mean a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. It's a kind of a tough question. Like, I think that overall, dabbling in all the different styles can make you a really well-rounded musician as a whole.
Yep.
And, talking about musicianship versus being a good songwriter, I actually think they're two very different things, because you can write a sick song that's just like super simple and doesn't need a whole lot of crazy musicality and complex, structure and chords and things like that for it to sound good. But the more that you dabble in different styles, you can see the interaction between, the different kinds of styles you're writing and the different chordings and things like that. And you can kind of take them and apply them in different ways and in unique ways. And that, I think that ultimately it doesn't necessarily make, having all this musicality doesn't make you a better songwriter, but it does allow you to do more stuff, more naturally at least.
Absolutely. Like people that kind of know the bands that Scott Norris has been in, they'll know that Of Reverie, although had some heavy moments, is not as heavy as your current metalcore band, Horcrux. Mm-hmm. There's no surprise there. You've always been a fan of the clean vocals. do you kind of find that the genre of, metal and metalcore has evolved a little bit, or has it stayed the same, where there's kind of a mix of bands that use clean vocals, or a lot of bands that kind of stay away from it and pride themselves on the unclean vocals, so to speak? What do you think about that aspect of it?
I think that that's a great question.
Because
Like,
that was an important thing for Of Reverie. Sorry to interrupt, but like the clean vocal component was important when you guys were writing songs.
yeah, for sure. I think that there's still a really good range of bands that are doing, both. And what I love about, this genre of music is you can go any direction, and you can literally take one step in either direction, and you'll find, so much stuff. You can find anything that fits what you're interested in, so I really like that. I think that the way that it's being implemented has changed. You hear a lot less like random clean vocals like popping in for like a line here or a line there. Like that was really big, in like 2012, 2013 kind of times. Now we're hearing it more like just structured a little bit differently. But you can definitely still find lots of bands that are doing both. Like I loved Dayseeker's new album, was my album of the year last year. I loved that album. And that was almost like they split it up. Like if they had a song that had clean vocals in it, it was almost entirely clean vocals. And then the heavy songs were all unclean vocals, So like that was really cool. Obviously they've got one guy doing it all, so they can they can kind of structure it however they want. They don't need to include anyone else, so to speak,
Yeah. No, that's a good point for sure. Absolutely. It's funny because Mikey was on the show a couple weeks ago. We were talking. I mean, it was a pretty big deal for you guys. Of Reverie was went on tour with like Horizon, Sirens and Sailors. And we were talking about that lineup changed. That tour lineup changed quite a bit.
Yep.
But I remember what it was. So basically, because you guys, like, he was telling me, Mikey, that you were like talking, like going back and forth with who it was. It was not Outline and Color. It was supposed to be These Hearts. It was supposed to be These Hearts, and it was supposed to be a band called Tear Your Heart Out.
Oh, okay.
So it was supposed to be one of those. And then I think Horizons never came into play in that tour until like the last minute of it. It was always supposed to be like Sirens and Sailors.
Yeah, I think it was always Sirens and Sailors. I think Oh Sleeper was around.
Yes,
at one point.
Yes,
I can't forget about that. They're like one of my favorite metalcore bands.
Okay,
so.
we didn't talk about that with Mikey. That was the one. Yeah, okay, that was it. That's what it was for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember you like geeking out about that because you really liked them.
So sick.
No, absolutely. So if we go back to 2012, 2013, Scott, when you were playing in Of Reverie, we'd have conversations about ticket sales and who you're kind of selling to. And, you had friends that, dabbled in metal and dabbled in music, but, all the conversation when we always talked about ticket sales and your friends coming to shows is, your friends were geeks. They were nerds. They weren't really into going to shows. They weren't even going into music. And I would talk to them at shows, and we would be talking about like Pokemon and Halo and all this stuff, and we would do that. And like it was one of those things where like you didn't really we didn't really wear that with like a badge of honor type thing. It was kind of like something we didn't really like. It was there, but we didn't talk about it now. Now, kind of 2020. I mean, it's like cool to be a geek. It's cool to be a nerd. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I always wore it as a badge of honor. Maybe I didn't talk about it at shows or anything.
Well, we didn't talk about it that much, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but no, I've always been a proud Pokemon player, proud geek. No,
talk about that stat, because like you were in the top percentile at one point, were you not?
I don't know if I'd say top percentile. Like I've had a couple good tournament finishes and things like that, but on a world perspective, like I wouldn't classify myself as like a top player.
But weren't you like, I remember like you for Pokemon, you were like in Canada, wasn't there? Like
I've had a couple of good like finishes in like an online, like I think one online tournament I came like top 10 in Canada. That's crazy. Stuff like that. But if you look at the actual way that like the tournament series is structured for Pokemon, like that one finish, one or two good finishes doesn't in the grand scheme of things make you like a top player. It's something to be proud of for sure. I love those accomplishments, but I wouldn't, there's some really good players in Ottawa, and they're good friends of mine, so I wouldn't classify myself as good as them.
Oh, absolutely. Your current project, one of your current projects, Horcrux, I mean, it's one of those things too where the planning of when you released like it was funny because for people that don't know, Mikey LaBelle, who joined of Reverie, and basically became really like one of your best friends. He played in a Skylar Drive a little bit, and that was a really cool time for him. But then at one point, he kind of, when he was not touring with a Skylar Drive, he wanted to make some more music, and he created a band with you guys called Horcrux, and it had members of Here Comes Bigfoot and had members of Reverie, of course. And now it has a member, I believe, of Dreamer Deceiver.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just spewing all these names out. People that don't know the Ottawa scene are going to be like, who the hell is he talking about? I feel like the planning of when you put out Outsider was like really kind of methodical because like you didn't really tell much people about what was going on. And then you put like the music video out. What was kind of like the planning of a band like that like? Like, did you kind of know that was the only reason it had to go down like that? Because you were kind of secretive. Like, you guys were even being the worst. Like, you guys weren't even telling me anything.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, it was definitely really methodical for sure. Like, I mean, so I remember like Mikey came back from one of his tours of the Skylar Drive, and he was just like, I really miss you guys. Like, let's see what we can do. Like, let's work something out. Cause like, I just want to jam with you guys again and like have some fun.
Yeah.
So, we kind of like talked things over and figured out like the direction. We were like, okay, yeah, we want to make it a little bit heavier, a little more focused on the screaming and stuff like that. This is kind of the style we want the music to be, and we kind of planned all that stuff out. And then, in terms of actually releasing something, we were like, we know we need to come out with a bang. Like, if we're going to do this, like, we want to make sure that it's, as polished and clean and professional as possible. So, if you just kind of took everything we learned from, being in all these different bands, grinding the local scene for so long. And then Mikey obviously having a great opportunity with the Skylar Drive. That's so much, that's on such a bigger scale. Right. So we took all this stuff that we knew and just kind of put it together. And the final product was just like, okay, yeah, we're going to drop this song. Here's the kind of layout structure for like the next little bit. And the first thing we're going to drop is just this beautiful music video. And we're just going to go all in on that. And like, that's the first thing anybody's going to hear from us. No Facebook page, no nothing. Like, it's all coming at the same time.
It was just it was like the YouTube. Like, it was the music video.
Yeah, but everything came out at the same time. Like, all of our socials, like, all of that happened the exact second that music video dropped.
But I feel like that's like a difficult thing to like keep it so under the wraps. Like, I feel like that hard.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Cause like we were so stoked on like everything. And like, we got the music video back and we were like, we need to show this to people. Like,
it was like really under the wraps. Like I had no idea.
Yeah. So it was, but at the same time, it made it really exciting. Cause we got to just see everything all at once. And we were like, this is awesome.
Absolutely. So for the people that don't know, I mean, how did kind of so there was obviously Mikey auditioned, submitted a tape for a Skylit Drive, but it was also the same thing for Of Reverie as well, because he was in Of Reverie before, right?
Yeah.
You could tell them how he was in the band. I'm giving the opportunity.
Cool. So it's so funny. Like, for some reason, we just like everyone in Of Reverie at the time, we were like, we know about this guy, we know about this Mikey guy, and like for some reason we just all thought he was this huge jerk. And like looking back at it, like there's no rhyme or reason behind it. We're just like, all of a sudden he just like hits me up out of nowhere. He's like, hey man, like I heard like your last vocalist moved on, like I'd like to try out. And we were like, like I don't know, like, is this guy actually a jerk? Like, and then he was just like, man, tell me a song and just like, let me do a video for it. And I was like, okay, fine, man. Like, do this song. And he just like sent me the video. We all just looked and we were like, you know what? Even if you are a jerk, we don't care because this is sick. And then obviously we met him. We're like, you're not actually a jerk. We have no idea why we thought that. And then obviously, like you said, like now he's one of my best friends. I was in his wedding party and everything. So,
well, I saw him like he was on that show, right, with Preeminent, and I saw him, and I'm just like, I just put the two together. I remember messaging you, and I'm like, listen, I know like there was some member changes, and I was just like, listen, like you have to at least give this guy an audition.
Yeah,
I just said you at least have to like hear him out. And I was being like really like annoying about it too. I remember you being like, "Hey, like shut up! Like we're gonna audition him. Like get out of here." So
Yeah,
I thought that was good, but no, it worked out, man. Like it was a perfect fit.
I love telling that story. It's so funny because it's just like we were just like so who is this guy? Like
It was just like I just saw it, and like I remember like he was kind of like it was weird because he was kind of like nervous too. Like he was kind of like I don't know, like I don't like there was like doubt on both sides. It was really weird. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like if like he came on the show recently and he said the same thing you did. He's like apparently they thought I was like a jerk. They weren't sure if they wanted me.
Yeah, man, that's 100% true. It's so funny. Like,
But it's one of those things too where was it kind of like you went on tour with like Sirens and Sailors and Horizons, and you were doing a lot of big things in Ottawa. But like, is it safe to say that like it was kind of hard to like obviously like you guys did a lot in Ottawa, like you guys were a big deal in Ottawa. But then you have to look, and it's like sometimes that can kind of be something you take for granted, and maybe it can get to your head and stuff. Was that kind of difficult for for the band basically to like kind of balance it? So it's like, yeah, we're good in Ottawa, but maybe we go to Toronto, it won't be the same. Like, because you guys were a big deal in Ottawa.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't think it was that hard for anybody. Like if I look back, I mean, we're talking 8 years ago now, but I think like looking back, like, we loved playing Ottawa, and we were just thankful for like whatever opportunities came our way. And we kind of approached it with that mentality. We weren't expecting anything. We knew like if we were going out of town, going to, Belleville, Toronto, whatever it is, Montreal, if we got a great turnout, like we were just stoked to have that. And if it wasn't, then we were just stoked to be there in the first place. It was just fun for us regardless. And it was fine if there was only 5 people there. Like I remember Belleville on our tour with Something You Whisper, we literally played to the bartender and one other person, and we were just like, okay, cool, we'll just have some fun, like that's fine. So like we never
we never like promoter's nightmare, man.
Yeah, I know. We were never like walking into a show with the expectation of like this needs to be like a big turnout. It was just more like we're stoked to be here, and if there's a great turnout, like that's all you can ask.
And can you please set the record straight as a touring musician about like how crappy things can be for the promoter, and people to kind of realize that the promoter is like has a lot of risks and has a lot of things to do?
Yeah, for sure. So like actually if you look back to like that Sirens and Sailors tour, like there was room for like 1, maybe 2 locals on that package. And if you're bringing that through as a promoter, like I've never been a promoter, so I can only imagine, but like yeah, on paper, like that's a risk, right? Like especially for us, like as like a new band, like it was our first real big kind of tour thing that we were going on. And that's definitely a risk. At least bands like Horizon, Sirens and Sailors, like they've got some good reputation behind them. But yeah, there's definitely risk involved for the promoters for sure.
There's always going to be moments where you like put out a record, or you put like a new song, and then does it kind of ever happen that you make this record, you make this EP, and it's like you put your blood, sweat, tears in this, and you put it out. Does it kind of like motivate you to like get back and write all the time, or are you kind of in the boat where you're just like, no, I want to like chill for a bit, want people to listen? Because I feel like you guys are just writing all the time. I feel like you guys like. You're a perfectionist, Scott. I've known you for years. Like you just want to kind of keep writing and writing. You're hard-headed like that sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. For me, it's like a double-edged sword. It's like sometimes you really need like to just chill and sit there and just let it be for a little bit.
Yep.
But honestly, I'm definitely someone who like feeds off the energy of like whatever else is going on. So like as soon as we have like a sick show, or like we film a music video, or do something that's just exciting, like that kind of gets me going to write more music. So like I've always been the type of person to just kind of feed off all the different energy that's coming in. So the more that we do stuff, the more that we want to do stuff, and it just kind of snowballs. Absolutely. I guess that's the right word.
No, that's great. No, for sure. Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I'm really happy we were able to do this.
Oh, no problem, man. This was a blast.
So plug away. I mean, you like Horcrux, I'm sure, is up to some cool stuff. The This Is Halloween thing was so cool.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That was cool. Yeah, man, I've seen you guys grow for years, and like it's cool to see. Like you guys are still kicking around and grinding it out. So it's awesome, man.
Yeah, thanks, man. So actually, since you brought it up, the This Is Halloween fun fact was actually written for a reverie in like 2015. Like
I feel like I knew that. I feel like
I worked
someone
so
told me
hard
that.
on that, and like I just couldn't make it work for like unclean and clean vocals together. Like I just couldn't. It just wasn't working. And then when Horcrux happened, I was like, oh my god, we can do this with all screaming the way that I hear it in my head, and it will be exactly the way I hear it in my head.
Actually, before another thing too, we talked about like Mikey joining the band. I still think it's unreal that like Ryan Shields didn't really play bass before
man.
he joined the band.
He's still here, man. He's still
and you know what? It's funny because I was talking to my dad because PD Beats, like I drum, my dad's a drummer, but like I want to jam with my dad. So like I obviously like failed miserably at playing guitar when I was younger, but like I want to like play bass. I want to go get a left-handed bass and like play and experiment around, right? Rhythm section, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if Ryan Shields could like play bass and learn to play bass, I could learn like but in the way in the way he did, like he just like he didn't really like play bass. You know what I mean?
No, man, he had never touched a bass before, and we were just like, you're a great merch guy, and you're like one of our best friends. Like, do you wanna try? And he was like, yeah, I'll try. So I just like gave him a couple quick lessons, and he picked it up like super fast. So
that's insane if you think about it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that happens as much as people think. Like I feel like people be like, oh, it happens a lot. Like, no, I feel like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it was all, I mean, like I said, it was just really good like timing, and we didn't really know any other people who genuinely wanted to play bass, and he was like, yeah, this is great. And he brings a lot of other stuff to the table, really good at like marketing and stuff like that. He knows, really great like merch designer. So he's definitely like a great person to kind of team up and be in a band with. So
absolutely. So where can people follow you on social media and plug away some of the projects they could check out?
Sure. So I'm everywhere at No Spaces Scott. There's 2 S's there. And then you can follow Horcrux at Horcrux Ottawa. Everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Find us on Spotify, Apple Music, all of your favorite streaming services, iTunes as well, if you want to buy a full album or whatever. We've got 2 EPs out. We've got the This Is Halloween single out, and we just finished writing a full-length record and filmed a music video for it 2 weekends ago. So pretty stoked on that. So there's going to be some more content coming real soon on that.
Yeah, I saw some behind the scenes, like some like the barn, like Zach's like it was his grandparents' parents' barn or something. It looks awesome.
Yeah, so it's actually like one of his parents. His parents own a farm, and it was one of the barns. It's like a storage barn, and like on paper that sounds really lame, but like it looks really, really cool. So
amazing. Well, it's great to catch up, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, great to see you, man.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Check out Horcrux wherever you kind of listen to music. And until next time, this is Scott Norris from Horcrux and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.